Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the No Laying Up Golf Podcast. My name is Randy. I am joined by Cody. We are talking women's golf today. Cody, let's start here. How you doing? Long President's Cup weekend. How's the new week treating you?
It's feels like we're still very much in President's Cup mode, pick. Just ended that live show. I mean, I don't know, 10 hours ago or something like that. And we're back on the mics again. It's awesome, buddy. But I'm excited to run down the last couple weeks in women's golf land because we've had some awesome tournaments.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's one of the things with the President's Cup, which was going on last weekend. Obviously, didn't get a chance to really talk at all about the event in Arkansas. And we talked, I guess, a little bit a couple Sundays ago about the Cincy event, but we can hit that again. And then you and I want to look forward. Epson Tour Championship this week. We'll hit some news and notes, and it'll be, hey, we're just checking in on the women's game here. We're in the fall. It's unbelievable. There's only 7 events left, 6 before the Tour Championship in November. So we're kind of getting down to it, surprisingly. But before we get into it, let's thank some great sponsors that have been with us all throughout the year. Let's start with Yeti. What do the folks need to know with Yeti?
Yeti, thank you to Yeti again for our presenting sponsor for all of our LPGA content this year. You know, their products, they're built to stand the duration of time, right? I think every single time I get on social media or if I'm scrolling away on YouTube or something like that, there's always like, oh yes, this Yeti washed up in this hurricane and it's still working, or somebody lit this on fire and this cooler is still very much intact. Just awesome products. Doesn't matter if it's cups, if it's coolers, if it's backpacks, luggage, you name it. And they very much put their money where their mouth is and support women's golf. And that's something that I'm very appreciative of them for. So please, everybody, go check out Yeti.com for their complete product line, top to bottom. You'll find something there for you. But a big thank you to Yeti.
Awesome. While we're here, let's thank our other great sponsor. Have really been a big help in doing much more women's golf coverage, and that is our good friends at Titleist.
Yeah, that's right, Randy. And thank you to our friends at Titleist. And today I'm talking about the Titleist golf ball. I've been fit for my golf ball. Everybody should go get fit. First and foremost, you can go get fit, head to Titleist.com, start the golf ball fitting process there. But most importantly, what do you do with all those old golf balls when they get a little too scuffed up? They're no longer in play, or you just have that ball pocket in your golf bag that you just end up having 5, 10 extra golf balls in there. It's weighing the whole thing down. This is what I do. I brought props today. So I have this little mesh bag that I put all of those scuffed up balls in. And this is what I do my short game practice with. So I'll take this to the golf course. And you know me, I don't belong to any of these fancy clubs around Dallas. Okay. I hit up all the munis. And you know what they have at the munis? Usually some beat up range balls. So I bring my own balls to practice my short game. So I'm out there grinding on chipping, pitching, trying to hit bunker shots, working on my feels, whether that's flight, spin, you name it. I want to practice with the ball that I actually play with. Because what's the point of practicing if you're not going to know how the ball is going to react? I want the confidence, and that's why I choose my Titleist Pro V1. I'm extending the life of these things. So listen, these balls last a long time. I'm extending them and getting high quality practice throughout the whole time. So everybody, please clean out your golf bags first and foremost. Utilize the nuggets that you got left and head to Titleist.com. Start the golf ball fitting process there and go get fit. It's very easy.
Wonderful, Cody. Thank you again to both Yeti and Titleist. And yeah, let's get into the episode. Hey, let's look back. Let's start here. We just concluded the Walmart Northwest Arkansas Championship, and it was Thailand's Jasmine Sawanapura capturing her 3rd career LPGA victory. She won in a playoff, Cody, over your girl, 21-year-old Lucy Lee. I think the story of the day really was Lucy's final round 60, which included unbelievably 2 bogeys on her front 9, including one at a par 5.
3 eagles, big.
I
Three
know.
eagles.
I watched highlights. Did you get to watch much of this? Like, I feel bad just because we were locked into President's Cup, but I think the thing that really strikes me is like if like this this course was playing really easy. It was like everybody was just making birdies.
Yeah, I mean, it's a scorer's paradise out there. Lucia went back and looked at it, so she's hit 12 of 13 fairways. She hit 16 of 18 greens and reg, had 26 putts. Didn't find a single bunker out there on that final round. And with the 2 bogeys, 3 eagles, somehow that adds up to 60. A slew of birdies in there, of course. Phenomenal stuff. And then really got into the playoff. And I'll say this, Jasmine, she had to eagle 18 to get into the playoff. She obviously eagled it. They go out, they play 18 again for the first playoff hole. Both of them on the green and 2 again. Both of them with good eagle looks. They both walk away with birdie. They go back to the 18th tee for the for the third time that day, and Jasmine hits a perfect drive in the middle of the fairway. Lucy absolutely pulls this left in like one of the few missed fairways, but you cannot miss that fairway on 18 if you're planning on going for it in 2. She was forced to lay up. Jasmine, of course, hit it up there on the green in 2, legged her eagle putt up, had a very, tap in birdie putt. Man, like, it sucks. It sucks for Lucy, but honestly, for her sophomore year, again, we're building towards something. And I think that's like the positive thing about it because Jasmine, she's 31 years old. She's been on the LPGA tour for a long time. This is only her 3rd win. But man, they played some awesome, awesome golf. And I know we can talk about the fact that this is only a 54 hole event. And yeah, the course is questionable, but there's a nice purse for 3 days work. And it usually is slotted in right, right around Solheim Cup year when it's bouncing around. But everybody always loves this event. So outside of the ridiculous amount of birdies, big, I guess where you kind of want to start.
Yeah, and listen, I don't have a problem with the setup or the course playing easy. Certain weeks you're going to get birdie fests, and I think on the women's side, much more so than the men's side, there are many more tests throughout the year where most of these women are hitting long irons, hybrids, 3 woods into par fours. Like I don't mind having a week where scoring is quote unquote easy and there's a bunch of birdies and eagles. That's fine. Let's start here. I believe it's the only remaining 3-day tournament. I'm trying to think now that I say that, perhaps the ShopRite. I know the ShopRite up in New Jersey always used to be a 3-dayer. You mentioned good purse, $3 million. I mean, no bones to pick with the purse, and the players love coming to this event. I think the majority of players stay with host families. Like, I don't want to trash this event, but I do just want to discuss, does it feel odd to still have 3-day tournaments on the LPGA tour? Because to me, it does a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, definitely as we see the rest of the purses continuing to advance and get bigger and kind of the minimum purse for new events that the LPGA Tour brings on. You pointed out ShopRite. ShopRite is still it's this and Walmart are the only two
Okay.
54 hole events. And if people remember, kind of similarities here, but Linnea Strom ended up winning ShopRite earlier this year, came
Right.
out of absolutely nowhere with a final round 60. Like went literally from like she was in like 67th place or something like that to win the event. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
weird. I don't know. The other thing that is kind of questionable about this is like the purse is fine because obviously that's what like the sponsor is putting up, which I understand. I guess I don't quite understand how this event and ShopRite are getting full CME points. Like I don't know how the Walmart Northwest Arkansas Championship is worth the same as Cincinnati. But I mean in the world of messed up world rankings and points and how everything is broken down, I guess, why not? But they're just not the same. I just don't understand how that kind of is the case still.
Yeah. I wish I had a better answer for you. I believe, at least in this Arkansas event, the reason that it's 54 holes, I believe they have heavy pro am schedules. Obviously, the sponsor, Walmart, I'm sure uses this as a big corporate hospitality event, and
Wait, 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 wait,
more.
wait, wait, wait.
Is that not right? Why is it 54 holes?
I think it's just an old school, old LPGA thing. I understand what you're saying, and you're right in the justifications that you just gave. Those are probably why it is still the way that it is. But what are we doing, man? Like, I think that's
Right.
that was just another one of those moments where I'm like, okay, like, could you ever imagine the PGA Tour telling us like, "Oh, yeah, we just can't do it today because we just have a heavy pro-am schedule and everything else." Like, is this supposed to be, like, the highest level of women's competition for this sport or not? Because if that's the same, like, I guess I just don't get it, and it's one of those frustrating moments where I'm like, "Well, why is it an LPGA Tour event?" Like, if they just wanna put a big purse out there and have people show up to make sure that these executives and everything are happy, then they can do that.
Right. Again, it's just I don't even want to like I know we're kind of like asking why, and I'm sure there are better reasons. But it, by all intents and purposes, it the players like the event, the people on the ground like the event. So like I don't want to bemoan that, but you're right. Like the LPGA Tour to willingly just contest 54 hole events, it does feel strange. I hope we kind of move away from the 54 hole events as we go forward the next couple of years, but we'll see.
Yeah, I would say the one thing is, like, this event's been I would say, the newish events that are on the LPGA Tour schedule, like, this goes back to 2007, and I think it's a company and Walmart and the people in Rogers, like, absolutely love the LPGA Tour, and they love hosting. Everybody raves about it, how the members and kinda the community just embraces everybody, and you have host housing and everything else. So I get that. And the field, or the purse, excuse me, has advanced and grown over time. I just don't, I guess, understand why we're still stuck in like this 3-day thing. And of
Right.
course, I mean, if I'm a player, I'm sure I like it, right?
I mean, less work. Yeah, sure. Well, I shouldn't say less work. I shouldn't say less work. Those proams are probably the worst work.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those things where I would say, just like the LPGA Tour is doing such an intense job of leveling up some of these historical tournaments that they have, to be like, hey, you guys, you have to elevate your purses. Like, I'm sorry, I understand that the history and the tradition, and you guys have been a long event for a long, long time, but like, you need to put more money in this. And you've seen big growth, specifically for the California events. You see all the new events, whether that's Boston, or really, like, we could go back to Mizuho, Cincinnati, like this run of new events, and then really the events in Asia, like they all have elevated purses here. So
Mm.
if they're not afraid to ask for more money, then why aren't they saying like, hey, but you guys also, we need to right balance this, because it's very much a model from the LPGA of old.
And it does feel like, maybe it's just crazy coincidence, but I hadn't even put together that Linnea Strom 60 occurred at the ShopRite, another 54 hole event. Like,
Yeah.
are they just erring on the side of, hey, we only have 3 rounds? Like, let's make the scoring as easy as possible. Again, fine, whatever. I will say Lucy Lee's just a couple notes on that 60 that she shot. She obviously the second player this year and the eighth since 2001 on the LPGA to shoot 60 or better. You mentioned Jasmine Swanapora, 31 years old. This is her third career win, first this year. And I'll say, as we get to the end of the season, this is like a very important win for her in the fact that she jumped up from 75th in the race to the CME all the way up to now she's 28th. This virtually guarantees her a spot at the Tour Championship,
Yeah.
which you just got to be in that top 60. It's not like the PGA Tour Championship where they do the weighted start. It's, hey, if you're in the Tour Championship, you got a shot at the biggest purse with a limited field in women's golf. So I shouldn't say biggest tour purse. So big week for her. We maybe we'll be looking back in November and saying Jasmine's won a. Oh yeah, she won Walmart. It's she makes money this week and potentially can make a lot of money in a couple months. Lucy Lee, same thing. She was actually right on the bubble heading into this week. She's jumped up to 32nd in the CME, And I think that's one of the things as we get down to the tour championship, it'll be fun to kind of monitor that 60th spot and see who's just inside the bubble and who is going to be just outside of that cut. So, yeah. Any run us through a few notable finishes here, and we'll keep the train moving.
Yeah, I would say the next people that kind of jump out, Seon Kim finished third. That's coming off of her T3 that she had there last year. Mao Saigo, big. Ended up finishing T for her, but really, like, when we look at ongoing Rook of the Year stuff, big considerations there. Ash Buhai, kind of a quiet season for Ash Buhai here. She's solo six, but continuing to put together kind of what she's known for. I mean, I know she has the lofty expectations from winning that major a couple years back, but it's going to be a pretty decent season as the majority of these ladies, they're all taken off for Asia, limited field, no cut events, and just going to pick up buckets full of points. Of course, Gino Titicole, top 10 again, Jim Cup Show, your girl in there, T7 with Linnea Strom, just making mincemeat of these 3-round 54-hole events. Nasa Tayoka, it's good to see her back in the top 10.
I
Really,
I
it's
have one. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Please keep going. I just have one before we move on. I have one player I would like to highlight.
Well, the other thing is, I'm happy to see Jenny Shin. She finished T12 here. Kind of the last time we saw Jenny. I know she played the Irish Women's Open post AIG, but did not have a good final round at the AIG Women's Open paired with Nelly. Shoots 11 under, finishes T12. But happy to see here making a top 20 and not having a very good year at all is somebody who we talked a lot about last year. That's Cheyenne Knight, right? Fort
Mm.
Worth's own. She's not even in like Solheim Cup considerations at all. Has just kind of been a ghost here, and finally there T17 with Lexi Thompson there 10 under. But yeah, overall, who do you got?
Somebody else at T17 and kind of fits the Cheyenne Knight mold a little bit, but I just want to shout out Yalimi No, who was on, speaking of Solheim Cup team, was on the Solheim Cup team many years ago, going back to Toledo, and she's still just 23 years old, and she was in the absolute wilderness. Cody, she ended last season, she ended 2023 ranked number 278 in the world rankings, which was, way down from obviously when she had been a Solheim Cupper. And now she's put together a very solid 2024. She's made 20 starts, she's made 16 cuts, 8 top 25s, 3 top 10s, and she's improved that world rank just kind of as a marker of how well her season is going. She's now up to 112th in the world. And it's wonderful to see her having success. She really burst onto the scene, came from nowhere several years ago at the Portland Classic. I believe almost won it. She wasn't an LPGA member, and I think was somebody did not go to the college route and was trying to figure life out on tour. And as anybody, right? But when you're 18, 19, 20 years old trying to do that, her golf game got a little sideways, but she seems to have found something. I've seen her using like a longer broomstick putter. I
Yeah.
think that was a big bugaboo of hers. And I wanted to shout her out because this week was just another solid week, tied for 17th. And quite honestly, could be a name. We're getting very ahead of myself. But as we look to 2026 and who could possibly be some of these Americans in contention for Solheim Cup spots, you let me know could be somebody that, hey, we're talking about either qualifying on points or perhaps in that captain's pick discussion. And I think that's a good thing, obviously, for her, but I think it's a good thing for women's golf and certainly American golf.
Yeah. I mean, she's in 61st place right now in the CME. She got a lot of room to make up there, Biggie, if you are expecting her to be on that team. I will say that she was truly like in the golf's doldrums there. Couldn't figure it out. It was the putting. She's rocking that long putter, which is awesome. It's awesome to see her finally making putts. You mentioned I think she has 16 made cuts so far this year out of the 20.
Hmm.
So 4 missed. What events can we not miss cuts at?
Are they the majors?
They're 3 majors and the Mizuho.
Ooh, yeah. Which,
So,
yeah.
But I will agree with you and say, yeah, she's putting it together when she needs to. And I will say, like, outside of those three majors that we identified, she did finish top 10 at the Chevron to start the year. So it all depends on if you're including that as a major or not a major, but T9 there. Pretty good finish.
Well, and I will say though, you made that comment about Solheim. Solheim has totally reset. Points have reset, and it's going to be a long race to qualify for that next team. So through two events, Cincinnati and Walmart now, Yelimi finds herself in second place on the Solheim points list. But
I don't
obviously,
know,
that's
dude. Does it start immediately after, or does it start at the
yeah.
beginning of the year?
Well, according, I'm just looking at the LPGA website. So they've Lucy Lee's in first place and Yelimi Knows in second place,
Mm,
and that has to be due
I
to
better
the
screenshot it.
last 2 weeks. Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
I also will just know with even her improved putting, Yelimi via KPMG Performance Insights still losing about a half a stroke per round putting, but I think that's a big improvement over where she has been. She's a much better ball striker and is somebody in that classic like, hey, if she can find it with the putter, she'll be very dangerous. So I think somebody to keep an eye on. And like I said, I'm just glad that she's playing much better golf this year. And it seems to be consistent at least throughout this season, which is good to see. Who else? I had Maria Fossey. She had an opening round 64 here. She went to Arkansas, won a national championship at Arkansas. She's kind of the adopted hometown girl of this event. Gabby Lopez being another one that went to Arkansas. Gabby struggled in the third round. Maria, tough second and third round, ended up finishing tied for 58th. Is
by
just
tough on this golf course, I just want to point out her second
yeah,
round she shot even par, and I'm pretty sure her third round she was like two over par. So
yeah,
not like it's again, this golf course is it's a racetrack. If you absolutely like get off of this birdie streak at all, you're just going to be left in the dust.
yeah.
But it
That's
was
right.
cool. I will say this, Maria, we give her a hard time. I think it's because I don't know if it's really our expectations. I don't know if I have any expectations from her, but I will say that the marketing and everything that came out around her coming out of college and the first and one, everything else like that was like this big power player, and she's playing the game different. And you have AT&T and all this other things that are just kind of thrust upon you. And then I'm sure even for her, like she didn't really have like the best college career ever. And she definitely made a name for herself and took advantage of it, and kind of the results haven't really been there. But you talk about the adopted hometown, like she still has her home is still based here in Arkansas. Like this is still where she's traveling out of and everything else. Her foundation, I think it's Fossey and Friends, does an awesome job with youth and youth golf and everything else like that. And they're all there. And she had, a ton of people. You probably saw it on social of them walking up 18 or whatever it was and doing the I don't even know what the Arkansas chant is. Do
Do they call the hogs?
call the hogs. There you go.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right. I didn't want, Bunky get all upset at me
Woo,
with something like that.
Pig Suey. Yeah.
But I don't know. Stuff like that's cool. I think that's probably like a talk of expectations and Maria and I don't know. I know she started this year without an LPGA tour card. Like she lost access and she had to go play ladies European tour just to, get starts in at the beginning of the year. And kind of seeing how I guess I don't really have an endpoint to this. I just don't really know what she's planning on doing.
Yeah. Well, she's gotta play better golf. I know. It's unfortunate in one sense, but I mean, good for her in another sense. So the NCAA championship that she did win, it was a home game, right? That was the year the
Right.
NCAA championship went to Blessings, which was the home of Arkansas golf. And, she played well, and I don't take that away from her. But I think on the strength of that, and then she goes and turns pro, plays the US Women's Open like the next month. She finishes tied for 12th. And yeah, I mean, I'll raise my hand. I think, we probably tweeted she has such a powerful swing, and I think it's such a departure from what we were used to seeing in the women's game that it was hard not to be like, holy shit, like if she knows where the golf ball's going. Like she could really, really dominate out here. And as time has gone on, she just hasn't played that good of golf. And so, but with all of that came endorsements and I just think in some respects, like all of that so soon probably is a disservice to her, but also like, hey, if it was never really meant to be, like you might as well cash in on those endorsements and make as much money as you can because it might be a shorter window. I don't know. I say all that too, where it's like, I don't know where we're going. I see your name pop up on leaderboards now, and it's honestly like, oh, Maria Fossey. Yeah, I kind of forget about her. I these days I have zero expectations for her. Yeah, just an interesting one there, I guess.
Yeah, so she played 18 events so far this year on the LPGA Tour. She's made 7 cuts, so she currently sits at 113th on the CME points list. What she's putting some together. She made the cut in Cincinnati, finished top 20 there, tied for 19th at 10 under par, and then we just mentioned here made the cut here, finishing at 5 under, but T58. Not a lot of money, but when you're looking at a calendar here with a lot of missed cuts, she's
Yeah.
got to feel something.
Well, it just reminds me, I still remember we were talking about Maria Fossey and Van Dam, who has gone through her own struggles, but is playing better golf, and Bianca Pogdananen,
Yeah.
who has never really broken through. She'll flirt with leaderboards every now and again, but those three women possess power in their golf games that really are among the most powerful players in the sport. But it just speaks to like golf is a whole lot more than just hitting the ball far and having swing speed. So anything else from the Northwest Arkansas Championship?
No, I'm good. I want to
Well,
talk about
then let's
Cincy big. What? Come on. What do you
yeah, we'll just
break it
quickly go
down?
back to Cincy. I think that the headline news here, besides Lydia Ko, I mean Lydia Ko should be the headliner.
Is
In
that
her
any
first
good?
start, yeah, in her first start since winning the Open Championship, she comes to Cincinnati. She shoots a final round Sunday 63 round of the day. She beats Gino Titicum by 5 shots. Star-studded leaderboard. Honestly, it was
Yeah.
a fabulous leaderboard. You had Heyron Rue solo third, Yuka Sasso solo fourth. Nelly was amongst a group tied for fifth. But it was a new venue in Cincinnati, and I was curious how that new venue would take. They've moved from Kenwood Country Club, which was the site the first 2 years of this event, up north of the city, kind of really into the suburbs, up to TPC Rivers Bend. The golf course, listen, it was pretty easy too. It's been very dry in Cincinnati. I think the course was firm, it was fast, it was lending itself to birdies, and that's fine. I guess I'll be more curious next year how it plays if it's more kind of normal weather, if you will. The event will be here the next 2 years. They announced that. So I've said this before, like personally, because it's Cincinnati, I do think Kroger and P&G are good corporate sponsors to have on board in the women's game. The whole trick is finding a venue that can establish roots and you can go back there year after year. And so I'm hopeful TPC Rivers Bend will be that venue for this event. Everything coming out of Cincinnati, the tournament, from the sponsor side, I read an article that they were thrilled with the event this year. And I know this is one of the Excel tournaments, so we obviously have lines to the Excel people. I think they were very happy with this event. And so I think this is one where, fingers crossed, it's a good event in the fall. And I'm hopeful this venue will be a sticking point for him. So we can go on about Lydia Ko. Honestly, I'm not sure there's much to say. Like Lydia Ko's just she's playing the best golf in the world right now of anybody on the women's side, and then honestly, maybe even the men's side.
Okay. I agree with you on that. Now, phenomenal golf from Lidico. No, there's no arguments about this. A big storyline that week, just frankly, was every single person that played in the Solheim Cup, how fatigued they were, how all they wanted to do is lay in bed, and that honestly, they just like, hey, this is a lot. And I think it's what we see, this leaderboard, we talked about how amazing the leaderboard was. I mean, outside of Nelly Corda, who finished T5th, which honestly is, you know, uh, very impressive. There is no other or Solheim Cup player that finished in the top 10. I'm gonna scrolling down now. The next person, the top 15,
I
none.
what no, no, no. On US, are you going both sides?
I'll go both sides.
Because you have Albon. I will say don't
Oh
miss
yeah,
Albon tied for 7th.
very good. So you got two, Nelly at T5, Albon at T7. Then we're gonna keep scrolling. Angelian did not make the team. Anna Norquist, T19. So you have three people on the Solheim Cup. Lexi's down there, T19. Charlie's at T19. So it's gonna start adding up here. But 4 or 5 people from the Solheim Cup that actually made it. And the vast majority of them played. I think the only person that I know that intentionally skipped it, like LC didn't travel just because she knew it was gonna be way too much. But I was shocked. You mentioned PNG, and I agree, and it sounds like everybody's happy there. I didn't realize until looking at the full LPGA schedule. So the Kroger Queen City Championship presented by PNG. The following week, we have the Walmart Northwest Arkansas Championship presented by PNG. PNG is sponsoring back-to-back events.
Is that right?
Yeah, I thought it was like just the Walmart, but it's not. PNG is tied to both of them.
They got them on both. Yeah, you're unless that's a typo on the website, which I don't mean to throw them under the bus, but certainly could be a possibility.
New website, you don't know.
Yeah. I didn't realize that, Cody. I yeah. The one thing I will say about this Cincinnati event with P&G and Kroger, I mean, these are
Local.
humongous companies. We gotta raise the purse here. I believe, the Kroger event is only a $2 million purse, and
What?
so to your point, you go to Arkansas the next week, 54-hole event, it's a $3 million purse. I just think I know Commissioner Marcus Amon has made a point, like, she's trying to get as many events up to that, like, $3 million purse level as possible, and I feel like this is one that needs to get there sooner than later.
Why how does a 54-hole event have a bigger Porsche than your Cincinnati event? Big?
I don't know. I gotta go talk to my hitters in Cincinnati. We might need Skyline involved. We just got to get more of my favorite companies
I
involved.
did. I didn't see a lot of people enjoying the Skyline this year like they have in years past.
It's tough because this will just give you a sense of where this tournament is. It's in a place called Maineville, Ohio, which I said is a suburb of Cincinnati. It's a place like I quite honestly have never been to. Like if you were telling me
Ever?
to leave my house, I grew up on the east side in Marymount. Like if I were to walk out my parents' door in Marymount and you were to tell me, hey, you need to drive to TPC Rivers Bend without any GPS help, couldn't get there. Don't know where it is.
Have you
I
played
don't
this
know if
golf course?
no, I've never been to this golf course. Never set foot on it. But I only say that because of the skyline. There's my favorite skyline is right down the road from Kenwood Country Club, which is where the event used to be. I don't know the skyline situation up in Maineville. I'm sure they have one. Maybe it's just off the exit of the highway. I'm not sure. But yeah, maybe that plays a part in not as much skyline taking place this week.
Do you know where Kenwood were they not happy? Was it a club decision? Was it a sponsor decision? Did you ever
Club
get to the bottom of
decision.
it?
Yeah, membership just didn't wanna give up the course for every year for, however many weeks, the setup, the teardown, which really sucks because Kenwood every single player I've talked to, every caddy I've talked to, they really thought that was a good golf course, and it is a good golf course. It's a proper test. It's a big golf course, but I think it was just a membership thing at the end of the day, which stinks.
Yeah, that's Cincinnati. We're excited though. Big. We're about ready. We got flights booked. Everybody's taking off on this Asian swing, man. What are we doing?
Yeah, so when we look ahead at the LPGA calendar, we have our fall Asian swing. So we have 4 events in Asia. Not this weekend. This weekend's an off week, travel week. We're going to start next weekend, and I will say the upshot of this for people in the United States, it's fabulous prime time golf. Central Time Zone. I believe this first China event, Cody will start on Golf Channel 10 p.m. your time. I know it's 9 p.m. Mountain Time. But the ladies will be in China, and then they go and play the BMW Ladies Championship in Korea, which is a great event. You and TC were over there a few years back. They return after several years off. They go to play the Maybank Championship in Malaysia, and then they finish this swing in Japan. And what I think is interesting, once you get through these 4 limited field Asian events, which I will say, remember last year at this time, Lydia Ko, I believe, was playing in these events, but as a sponsor invite.
Yes.
So she wasn't. I think it was Lydia. It was a big name, and we learned that if you're a sponsor invite, you're not eligible for the points because they are, limited field. There's a rule where I think only the qualifying players qualify for the points as they're then assigned to the race to the CME.
I think it was Lydia for everything but BMW because she had one BMW like the 2 years
Yeah,
prior or something like that, so
yeah. Where I was going before that sidetrack, they have moved the Hawaii event, which used to be in April. Now they've stuck it at the end of this Asia swing. So it kind of serves as a buffer event coming back from Asia. Obviously, the folks that haven't qualified for Asia, they'll have several weeks off and can make their way out to Hawaii. But you have 4 events in Asia. They come hit Hawaii, and then they go from Hawaii to Tampa, the Pelican, Annika's event, and then that's the last full field event, with the conclusion being the Tour Championship. So they're after this weekend, they're playing 7 straight weeks. I mean, we're getting to the end of the season here. It's a long season, but we're the end is in sight here, Cody.
yeah, it truly is, and honestly, this is where it kinda gets silly because we talk about these limited field events. I understand why they do it because they guarantee, travel and purse and everything else like that. Like they're very well compensated if you get to the correct ranking spot to be able to make these events. But if you don't, you really like you have to put all of your you have to play great in Hawaii and play great in Tampa.
And Hawaii can be weird, if the
Yes.
wind's up, that's a tough one, and then, yeah, you gotta go from Hawaii, like you said, back to Tampa. Honestly, I'll be curious what the field ends up being for Hawaii, if it'll attract pretty much all of those people that are trying to get inside the CME cut, or if some people feel like, "Hey, it's not worth the travel." That will be one to keep an eye on. The other thing I was just gonna mention, we're getting to the point. I'm actually surprised, unless you have heard whispers, we're usually getting to the point of the year where we start to at least get some word about the 2025 schedule. I really haven't heard much. I think they typically, is this right? Can we expect an official schedule release like around that Annika Pelican week in November? Is that what they did last year?
Yeah, that's usually when everybody makes fun of the schedule. So
We figure out how many miles they're
yeah,
flying. Yeah,
yeah, and then there's social content to follow and everything else like that. But yeah, it'll be interesting. I know last year we were waiting so long because of this big vote. What's
that's
going on with
right.
the LPGA LET, and still nothing
And that's
heard since.
crickets. Yeah, that feels like it's crickets. We've asked some people and they're like, "No, I don't think anything's going on."
who who knows, man? But yeah, we should. But you're right. We haven't heard anything really too new. I mean, we know that the new Boston event that's going to stick around for a little bit. We know since he's locked into that same location. I was kind of questioning because I was told last year when they took the Dallas event off, um, the Volunteers of America event, that it was a sponsor decision to remove it, but they already had a sponsor lined up. They were just waiting to figure out where it would fit on the calendar. And obviously, this year is coming on, and there's no Texas event. There's nothing. That's it's been a North Dallas staple there for a long time, and that didn't happen. So it'll be interesting to see if that slots back in next year because this year's calendar, it was kind of all over the place, and I know a lot of that had to do with doing a back-to-back Solheim Cup year, but also, yeah, the Olympics and
Yeah.
everything. So it's tough. I know our normal, AIG Women's Open is very, this year was mid-August. Next year we're back to like end of July into that first
Or
week in August.
yeah.
It's hard, man. I'm trying to schedule summer breaks and vacations and stuff. I gotta tell Yari, hey, I ain't gonna be here. I'm gonna be in Wales. She was
Well,
not happy.
that's the other thing with having 5 majors, and with that 5th major, if we call the Evian the 5th, being over in France, it's just makes it. How do they slot those in? This year they went, which I was glad that the match play moved up to early April. But as it stood this year, you had the match play and then a week off and then the first major, and it's like, that doesn't seem like the best way to kinda roll into your opening major. So, yeah, we'll be keen to kinda start hearing about the schedule and obviously getting the official schedule when it does come out.
It's not like there's not, major gaps in this schedule where they could potentially move some
Right,
things around too. I mean,
right.
we'll just want to highlight again that the LPGA Tour kicks off in January, usually like the second or third week with the Hilton Tournament of Champions. Then they've added Drive On, so the Drive On event
Thankfully.
that is very much needed because then you take almost a month off until the end of February, and that's the beginning of the first Asian
Yeah,
swing, and
you're
you
on the other
do,
side of the world.
Thailand, Singapore, China before we come back and really dig into kind of California, Arizona, and then match play. You're right. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. I know that's one area where it's like, okay, we're gonna need to see some progress with the schedule making more sense this year.
Do you know the other thing that I would say too is like, obviously LC won the Scottish Open, which I thought was, it's awesome, right?
Mm,
Why can't the Women's Irish Open be co-sanctioned? Like, I'm
right.
just looking,
It
for
used to be.
research,
Yeah, it
right?
used to be.
But research for this podcast, I was like, hey, wait a second here. Where is the LET at as we're getting ready to take off on this Asian swing? So obviously, there's no event this week at all. Over on the ladies European tour, they are in China because they have the Aramco Team Series China event that has a,
Mm,
$1 million prize fund. And the vast majority of people that are entered into it, like there's some big name LPGA players on here. Ronnie Yin, Miu He, Janet Lin, Angel Yin, Allison Lee, Emily Christine Pedersen, Anna Norquist, like all going over, which rightfully so, they're going to be in China the following week for the LPGA tour.
right.
So I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Like it's not just a cash grab. Like go play Aramco. I think it's good that it's an off week on the LPGA tour. They don't schedule them against any big other LPGA events. Like I get it. It makes sense. That's a very good scheduling thing. Then I look at it on the LPGA the following week when the Buick LPGA event is in China. And at the same time, the ladies European tour is in Taiwan. And I'm like, wait, we're in the same part of the globe here. Like the LPGA tour is underpinning these purses on the LPG or the LET tour. Like what? Why are we coming together here? Or better yet,
And it's
why are we
already a
creating
limited
more?
field event.
Why are we
Just make it a
creating
bigger
more?
event.
Yeah, playing opportunities.
Right.
You know, I don't know. I think if we could say what would I like to see different schedule wise for 2025, yeah, I'd like to see a little bit more like consistency on the LPGA schedule. But like, really, what would I like to see is like, let's figure out what's going on between these two tours. And if it's nothing and they're going to continue, then somebody say that. Just say, hey, nothing's going to change here and it'll be
Yeah.
fine.
Well, good segue there. You mentioned the ladies European tour. I did just want to highlight that Switzerland's Chiara Tamberlini won last weekend's French Open on the LET. She won in a playoff over Australia's Kirsten Rudgley, German sensation and future Solheim stalwart, as prognosticated by TC and myself. Helen Bream finished tied for 28th. And I will just say that the ladies European tour obviously coming down to the end of their season. I believe they have 5 events left, maybe 6. A couple of those are Aramco events, as you mentioned, and Chiara Tamberlini leads the order of merit. Belgians Manon de Roy, I may have mispronounced that. I'm sorry. She is second, and Bronte Law of England is third. So anybody keeping track there, yeah, well, Cody, I don't even know. So the vote we
Never got
institute.
to a vote.
So the order of merit, the winners, they do not necessarily receive LPGA cards, right? Because I know that was
No.
discussed, but that was what the vote ultimately. That, yeah, we haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah, I don't.
Okay.
That's not official.
Okay. Shout out Lydia Ko. We mentioned she won in Cincinnati a couple weeks ago. She was over in Korea playing in the Hana Financial Group Championship on the KLPGA. She finished 10th. I don't know who this woman is. M.A. Dossum of Korea won the event. So shout out to her. Minji Lee was in the field. She finished tied for third. I will say this, though, Cody. When I went to explore the KLPGA website, it's a very good website. It's like I know the LPGA just updated theirs, but like the KLPGA was, running circles around them these
I
last
know.
couple of years.
It's real good, except for the occasion when Google Translate isn't properly working for that plugin.
I It came in Korean. I finally did find the English button,
Yeah.
so yeah, that was that was very helpful to say the least. Another quick news and note, and I want to make this our Mizuho winning moment. I'll plug our other year-long sponsor here, Mizuho Americas, part of Mizuho Financial Group, the 15th largest bank in the world. Mizuho Americas is a corporate and investments bank serving corporate and institutional clients. They advise and fund businesses looking to go public, raise money, expand operations, or connect with large investors. They also help finance large infrastructure projects that promote civic improvement. So you may not know the name Mizuho. You likely know many of the name brand companies they have helped or the projects that they have funded. They are very big investors in the women's game. Of course, the Mizuho Championship being one of their flagship investments there. But Allie Ewing has announced that she is retiring at the end of the year. And we always kind of look for kind of team or just significant quotes to tie to this Mizuho advertisement. And I wanted to just call out a couple here that Allie made in conjunction with announcing her retirement. And it has to do with the Solheim Cup, Cody. And we can joke like she's going to retire with a very unfortunate Solheim Cup record. So
It's tough.
I don't want that to overshadow. She said the pride, I'm quoting Allie Ewing here, the pride I had to wear red, white, and blue will always be at the top of my achievements. It only propelled me to feel like I could push even harder from a younger age. It's what I highlighted that I wanted to be a part of because there's just no greater honor than representing your country. To now be a veteran, apparently there might be some mama bear type of remarks made towards me. So I'm definitely feeling the older role, which is great. It's an honor to be a part of 4 of these, and I'll take whatever that gets me. And put aside her individual record, and I think she's going to end on what is it, a 7 or 8 match losing streak. I'm very happy for her. She's going out on her own terms. And more importantly, she's going out as a Solheim Cup champion now as part of the winning US team. And I think that's very cool.
Yeah, really, really cool. It's funny she talks about Mama Bear. She's 31 years old. But of course, it's just one of those things in LPGA world. Like, that's kind of old, and I completely get it. So obviously, if people don't know who Allie is, her maiden name was McDonald. Her husband is actually the head golf coach of the Mississippi State women's golf team, which she went to college at. So she's very, very proud to be a Mississippi State alum. She did not have this crazy amateur record growing up. She definitely worked super hard at this like little 9-hole golf course with no driving range. Yeah, just kind of built it as she went. She remained very close to home in Tupelo, Mississippi, and like never really forgot who she was, no matter how or where she was playing. I think the fact that she was able to represent her country is awesome, but she also is like leaving with, has 3 LPGA wins, and I know for her, like there's a huge future ahead of her. Whether that's, I'm assuming that she's going to be tied more into either college golf based off what her husband's kind of doing, or junior golf or something. But like golf is such an integral part of her life, and she mentioned that. And wish her nothing but the best. Regardless, like Solheim Cup record aside,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
she did the
That's
damn
not
thing,
important.
and like
Yeah.
she qualified, and it's really, really cool.
I'll say she won the first Cincinnati event. That was one of her 3 career victories. Yeah, I think she's another one that's just universally respected, and like I haven't ever heard anybody say a bad word about her. And that's, what better legacy than that for her. And like maybe she wants to start a family. I do think in some capacity she likely will end up at least helping her husband, if not coaching on her own at the collegiate level. And I feel like she will do a wonderful job with that, or honestly, whatever she wants to do. The last thing, Cody, before we get out of here, we'd be remiss. This is a big week, even though the LPGA Tour is off. It's a big week for the 2025 LPGA Tour, and that's because the Epson Tour, the women's version of the Corn Ferry Tour, if anybody is not aware, this week is the Tour Championship, the finale of the Epson Tour. They're playing it at a new venue. They've moved out to Indian Wells in California, and they are handing out 15 tour cards. So the top 15 women on the season long, points race will all earn tour cards for 2025. I don't know if we have to go through all 15 in position right now, but who are some names, or at least a couple names, that you want to highlight and give mention to as we monitor this weekend?
Yeah, I'd say first and foremost, like leading the points list right now, American Lauren Stevenson. She's has it very much locked up. So her, I don't even
There's some
want to take a
tough names
swing.
here. I know.
I don't even
We
want
might
to
as
take a
well.
swing at that one. Do you want to try?
Yahui Zhang. I think
Okay.
Yahui Zhang from
Okay.
China. She has
Very
also
good.
clinched a card.
A young lady, Jessica.
Porvasnik. Yeah. This
Uh,
is, yeah.
and then really, I'll say, and Brooke Matthews and Fatima Fernandez Cano from Spain. They have them all clinched. Jenny Bay from the United States. She does not have it clinched, but is sitting firmly in seventh place, looking very, very good. Ingrid Lindblad, who won 2 weeks ago, her first professional victory on the Epson Tour, sitting in eighth. Anna Belanc, she's from Slovenia, but really has been around the Raleigh area of North Carolina for a long, long time. I actually used to practice at Forest Creek in Pinehurst,
Was
where
she
I
a
was
Dookie?
at.
Did she
She
go to
was.
Duke? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. That's
So
right.
she's in ninth, going to go back to the LPGA Tour. And yeah, we look down to the bottom. So people who are kind of in jeopardy right now, Kim Kaufman sitting at 14th, and then Valerie Plata from Colombia sitting at 15th place. So who do you want to focus in on kind of from the outside? Because we have some that are kind of making a run for it, who actually have like a shot at getting up there in that top 15, and then we have some notables who are just like, this ain't gonna happen.
Yeah. To me, the most interesting name, just because of her US AM victory, is Japan's Saki Baba. I
Yep.
believe she currently sits in 18th, so she would need to move up 3 spots. She would be a fun addition to the LPGA Tour, and no disrespect to the other women around there who are close to the cut line, but I think Saki is the biggest name that's kind of like, will she or won't she?
Well, that's close, right? I would say other big names that people will recognize is Amari Avery. So she turned pro after finishing spring semester at USC. She's played in 9 events so far. She's made 7 cuts, has 2 top 10s, but currently is in 82nd place. She's gonna have to win to really give this a shot. Now, I will say there is
That's crazy, because I will just going back to Ingrid. Now Ingrid won, and so that's what's carrying the
yes,
day. But Ingrid's only made 7 starts
yep.
and finds herself in eighth. Yeah.
Basically they got to win, and that's what it is when you only have 15 cards in so many events, right? It's hard to beat
Yeah.
people out. The other person that I want to say notable is longtime, kind of LPGA veteran, and if people pay attention to the LPGA Tour, have gotten very familiar with her because of her work with Hope and Mr. Stanley on their podcast there. But that's Emma
Oh,
Talley.
sure.
So she's
Yeah.
played. She didn't have her LPGA Tour card this year, and she's gotten a couple starts on the LPGA Tour, but really what she's been focusing on is Epson and trying to do everything to get her card back. So she's currently at 86 on the point list. She's 9 starts, 8 made cuts, but only has 1 top 10, but is trying to make something happen. Other person I wanted to shout out to as we go, a favorite of ours, Annie Park, just not going to happen. 136 on the list. And most surprisingly, when I came across this name, somebody who also turned professional, very much along the lines of Amari Avery, Ingrid Lindblad, and kind of somebody who we thought was going to like pop, was Charlotte Heath. And that name should sound familiar because she played really, really good last year at the AIG Women's Open. She was the Smith Salver Trophy winner for being low amateur, and she's had seven starts so far this year on Epson, and it's not like she's been bouncing between Epson and Ladies European Tour. She's been full-time Epson. 7 starts, only 3 made cuts.
Mm.
Truly having a tough go of it so far in her professional career, but, it takes time for people, and I think that's what when you think of the Roses and, I don't know, Ludwigs and Nick Dunlaps of the world, like, that's how truly impressive it kinda is for them, because for the rest of them who are out there
Well,
trying to figure this
we
out,
talked
it's a
about Maria
completely new.
Fassi,
Yeah, it's a new
like
world.
she's yeah, she's right in that. You're exactly right. I will say, I went hunting. I was like, man, it'd be cool to watch, at least the final round of the Epson Tour Championship this weekend. I did find you can stream it online. So I want to give a shout out gklive.tv. Gklive.tv will have the Epson Tour Championship. Check specific listings. You can watch the replay. Typically, they'll have about 3 hours from noon to 3 p.m. local time. So this would be 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern time because they're playing in California. So at least, fans, if you're curious about the Epson Tour, if we get a good leaderboard heading into the weekend, there will be a streaming service. But man, it feels like, if there was a golf channel that was dedicated to showing golf, it seems like this would be a good event to maybe put on. But
Listen,
at
not worth the
least
money, big.
at least there's a
That's what the
streaming option.
that's what the people will tell you, and it sounds like we need to explore a little gklive.tv. Maybe they need some color commentator boys
I
out there.
know, I know. I honestly, I didn't. I sheepishly, they had broadcast some stuff earlier this year. Totally missed that, but might tune in this weekend for the Epson. So, Cody, I think that's an episode. Unless you have anything else.
No, it's great, buddy. We said you told me it's going to be a 45-minute episode. We're at 57 minutes now. It's going to be great.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, I enjoyed the check-in. A lot of good stuff. We're getting down into the nitty-gritty, down to the wire with the women's golf seasons, and so you and I will be back. But until then, thank you, everybody listening, and yeah, cheers and crack on.
Cheers.